Hello, Jeannie. How are you?
Good, I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. And thank you for coming on to be one of my guests to kind of have me pick your brain a little bit. Appreciate your time.
No problem. I'm always happy to do it for you.
Thank you. So I know your not name is Dr. Ginnie Chen. Can you tell me a little bit? Because you've been in how long you've been in dentistry? Like what was it like got you into dentistry? Just a short little, something.
Okay, well, so basically, I got into dentistry because, one of the things is I like helping people, and then I also want to be in the health field industry. But my main thing was, couple of my uncles are dentists, and they run their own business. I kind of feel like I always want to have my own practice, kind of, or be my own business, having my own business. It's because I don't like working for people. So that's my main thing. And then I also is really interested in the health field. Being a doctor, while you don't have a life, but as far as being a dentist, you do have more of a quality life. Like, when I asked my uncles and stuff, they said. So that
Awesome.
was how I got into that,
Yeah.
to dentistry. I've been doing dentistry for, I want to say 15 plus years. I actually was very lucky that right when I was doing my residency at USC, I met this one, my mentor, who was, the senior who guided me. He actually worked with this other dentist, and she wanted to, from her, he got me this job with her, but then she also knew a friend right away. So while I was doing my residency, I was working with this lady part-time. Then this other lady told me, oh, this friend of mine, a dentist, is want to retire. Well, she didn't want to retire, but she was forced to because of disability. So then I bought her practice. And right away, right after I wasn't even finished with my residency, I already decided to buy the practice. And when I talked to my mentor, he goes, yeah, go ahead, because the price was good.
It's
And that
amazing.
was,
I just feel like you're so courageous. Like looking at you, I've known you for years, right? Looking at you, I think you always look so gentle and so, like sweet and everything, but like you got such a strong spirit. I'm going to talk about it in the interview, right? Just you're super strong as a person. It's really amazing to see. So, one thing I wanted to talk about, you just happened to mention, and I wanted to ask. You said the dentist had to sell the practice. Can you tell me a little bit about that? What caused it?
well, I don't know exactly what was her main issue, but it was mainly due to carpal tunnel at the beginning, right? That was what I understand. She couldn't work with her hands anymore. She said her hands would feel numb. And then, she didn't want to endanger her patients. But right away, when I talked to her, right away, she did tell me that, she's okay because she bought a disability insurance. So she could, not have to depend on her income. So, she was prepared. And so that's why when I bought the practice from her, she just mentioned you should get a disability. And at that point, I didn't know, but because I just happened to doing a residency, somebody left a flyer about disability insurance. So right away, I just said, okay, I need it.
Mm,
So I didn't ask too many questions.
yeah.
But because I think she was only 52 when she was forced to retire. It wasn't because she wanted to retire. It was because she can't do it anymore.
It's just so sad. So that's why I say, you are a doctor, right? By practice as a doctor in dentistry, and you also do financial service. So you were not initially you didn't join the business because you wanted to knock on the door, become a financial service person, right? So I know it was through, a person that you know very well, right? So like because it's not your first initial willingness to want to be one, what was your initial feeling about, financial service and World Financial Group?
Well, I don't have a negative, most people have a negative idea about, the financial services or, selling insurance. That wasn't my main thing. All I did was because how I was related to this is because of Joey, my late husband. Okay, at that time he was super healthy. But when he started talking to me about what he does, and I said it was about insurance, right? But the way I thought was, oh, you're just an insurance person, a salesperson. But I wasn't negative about that because I know insurance is important because before that, my mom and dad, they all bought insurance, and it was a whole life, but which I didn't know anything about. All I know is they did buy something when we were very little, right? When we were like 14, 15, maybe at that age, they bought all of us one. But what is positive about it is not positive in the sense, because my dad, when I was in dental school, he actually passed away from cancer.
Mm.
And it was devastating to my mom and my brother. But at that time, I was also in school. But because of he was properly protected, the life insurance actually helped my mom because she was able to get a big chunk of money. And so I still have that policy that parents pay for. And my brother, what he did was, all he did was, because my parents was paying for it, we didn't have to really pay. The insurance pretty much pay for itself, right? He would just stop the payment and pay for itself. But I don't really understand insurance at all. So when I met my husband, he explained it. And then he also said, okay, why don't you come and learn? He didn't offer me to come and do this business because he was doing it.
Mm.
But all I did was, he said, come and learn. And so that's why I started learning. I wasn't a fan of buy more just because, well, I have this one, I didn't know what to do with it. At that point in time when I met my husband, my business, my dental was just, I started from scratch. It was just about where I'm beginning to make some money, but not a lot. And then there was the recession too, the housing crisis. So that's why I wasn't really looking into buying. But before my husband, right, talked to me about it, my cousin was also in the insurance, and he told me to buy, I think at that point was IUL. And I said, well, I already have this one. At the point when he sold it to me, it was a great idea, but I didn't know what the use of, right? You know how we always bought something, it was good at that time, but then afterwards we didn't understand. And then we're thinking like, oh, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But luckily I have a common sense to keep it because I know how it helped my mom.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's so interesting because, most people have such a negative feeling about insurance, right? And then you are a doctor, right? And then you come in to do a business that involves some insurance and some other stuff because you're fully licensed with everything. So retirement planning and everything. So it's just really interesting that, you've gone through so much and then you've seen so much, right? I wanted to ask you because I remember vividly you were training one time talking about a client of yours. You talked to him, he's your dance partner, I think, and you talked to him over and over and over to buy some protection, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that story? Because that was just amazing. I mean, I think a lot of times people don't really know that, insurance is such an important aspect of financial planning that it literally can make and break you, but you got to find the right one. You have to have the right person to teach you about it. But, just it's important to have it. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this was back in I think it was before pandemic. Okay. So before that, several years before, after my husband passed, I wanted to share with people like what we do, right? He's actually my dance teacher, and I know he makes quite a good amount of money, but the only thing is, we always feel like, oh, we don't need it. So I started talking to him a lot, and then I said, well, you should have, because we know you should have proper protection. He's single and he doesn't have family. I know that. So he always said, I don't need it. But the thing is, that year he was having some headaches. And then I said, oh, if something really happened to you, what would happen? Right. And I know like our product, we have like these living benefit riders or even the long-term care. And I try to offer him that, but he always refused. But it's only because we were going to a competition, all of a sudden he has a headache and he couldn't understand what was it. It wasn't, he doesn't know what's causing it. Okay. So he was fine, literally. Right. But the thing about it is because I told him, what happened if you get checked up and something happens, you're out of luck. Right. So I convinced him, and he always said no to me already. And so I feel like, okay, if I tell him again, he's gonna say no. But Nancy, my mother-in-law, actually said, no, talk to him one more time. So I made an effort that day to go and talk to him. I said, why don't you do this? Can you want to get yourself protected? You're having this headache. You don't even know what it is. He was still going to doctor. So he said, okay, fine. So I convinced him, we bought just a term, but it has a living benefit. He actually signed up We didn't know what was wrong with him, nothing, because, test was always fine.
Mm.
But 3 months later, he got into a major, horrible motorcycle accident.
Mm.
And that just, I couldn't believe it. It was on Facebook because his mom posted it. And I'm like, oh my God, it was only 3 months, literally.
Mm.
And he got into a major accident. Luckily, he survived. Luckily, he survived. So he had broken legs. We were trying to do the claims, but at that time, it was severe. But the thing is, he also recovered.
Mm.
So the claim, the living benefit rider really wouldn't, because he recovered. So he really couldn't really claim
Yeah.
for the amount that he wanted. So we just told him, why don't you just put it off? Just don't claim it, right? Don't accept it because it wasn't what we were expecting. But to that story, I follow up. Well, recently somebody was telling, well, you don't have kids. And then he was asking me, well, he's afraid, like, what happened if something,
Mm.
he can't work anymore. He started asking me about that. I said, well, there is a disability insurance, but it only works up until you're 65.
Mm.
So I don't know beyond that. And it costs, so I ran him some quotes, but then I told him about, well, there is this long-term care. So he actually already approached saying maybe he wants to get it. But at this point, I don't know if he would qualify just because, yeah. So sometimes if you're passionate about, you keep telling them, eventually they will need it or they will want to buy it, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, a lot of people have this taste in their mouth about that because I think it's maybe the way it was approached before. I'm not sure. But I just feel like it's such a good thing. Like my husband is one reason that I went into this business because nobody told us about long-term care. I wish I knew, right? Because now, I'm the caretaker and it's really difficult, when you're working full-time, caring for a person who's sick, right? So I truly believe that that's why. But I feel like that your story is you had so many of like stories about insurance. I think you became a fully, a strong believer in the insurance product, right? But how does business, you run your own business, so you're a business person. How is this business different from your traditional business?
well, my traditional business, I like when I bought it, I know I saw how the other dentists, right now I feel like, okay, I may not have too many years, the other
Mm.
day I was I must say, if we look at our iPhones, I feel like sometimes
Mm.
my hand is numb a little bit. So I may not be, it's physical. So my dental, I have to be there after work in order to get paid.
Yeah.
So, and when my husband was sick, I had to take time off to care for him. And then also when my mom is sick, I also have to take some off and care for her. So if I don't work, I don't get an income. But compared to WFG business, our business with this insurance is, and also with our team, we could always leverage, right? So if I could not take care of my clients, I could ask you, for example, Ali, I know you were my trainer before, and I could ask you to help. I could also ask my my manager, Kevin, to help. And a lot of that is we always could collaborate and then we get a split, right? So that's one of the thing about our business is like, it's also transparent, right? If you refer that people, you should split, and we do. And so that's why we're able to be successful in this business without putting so much of our time. So that's how I'm able to relieve my time. And that's another, one avenue. If you don't have time, then you could do referral. And also we could also build team like an agency. So that's one thing I love about this business is, yeah, even though I don't have a lot of time, I could always leverage other people's time to help me. And so that's one of the things that it's different between, my dentistry and also the financial service
Yeah,
business.
absolutely. That's so good. I love that. Yeah, I just feel like, there's a lot of things like we need to talk about. Not every business is as flexible as WFG, right? Like I couldn't just, my accounting business, I couldn't just do that, unless I hire someone, I have to pay them salary and things like that. But WFG is great because I can just help you and then we both, help somebody else. So it's a really great way. It's a good system. And it's a very fair system because, you have a referral and then I have the knowledge and you don't have the time, I can help, right? So it doesn't happen most business, so it's amazing in that sense. But in terms of just like how has the business changed you feel? Like, because I know that, you know, I think it's a very different from traditional business, right? Because it is a team building business. It can be very challenging. Um, Financial service, I think it's not as challenging because you just, help somebody to understand financial products like retirement and things like that. You're very good at it. But like, how do you feel about how this business has changed you in any aspect, good or bad?
Well, I think for one thing, I bring out my shyness, okay? Before I was in dentistry, all I do is I just go to work and then people come to me most of the time, or I would do print ads, right? I don't really need to go and socialize. And that's one of the things that too, because I don't like to go out socializing. Another time is, your self-confidence is as good, right? But with WG, you're forced to like, okay, like for example, I have to talk with you or we have to do training in group of big audience, right? So last Champion Bowl where our convention, I was able to speak with like over 2,000 people. Back in the days when you first tell me to do that, no way. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So my confidence level has increased, and that's also in terms of working with people, my my knowledge or my able to communication skill is a lot better. I also have a much more positive attitude nowadays, right? Because anybody who upset me, it wouldn't upset me as that bad because in hindsight, right, you're not building my business and you cannot, you're not paying my bills. So that's why it doesn't affect me as much. So I think my life is a lot happier, right? And I also have a lot more, I want to say more freedom to say, not in terms of like, I don't have a lot more time, but at least I get to do a lot more things, right? I get to go to travel. Money is not necessarily an issue anymore just because I have both, right? So I getting income from WFG. I also have my dentistry. So I'm much more relaxed versus if I only have dentistry, then if something, recession comes or, so many people lay off, then my patient pool, they also dependent on if they're working or not, right? So then it affects that. So that's why I said I'm much more calmer. Plus, WG helped me organize my retirement, also my savings. I'm able to invest on my own because I understand a lot more knowledge. So, and I could take more risk or less risk. We have so many different products that will help build our financial wealth, right? So that's from my perspective.
I love it. I just love talking to you. I feel like unfortunately we have an event coming up, but gosh, I feel like there's more conversation we can be had. So let's make this happen again with
Okay,
more stuff. But
great.
this is very, very helpful. I'm sure it's going to help somebody. So thank you so much, Ginny. Appreciate
All
your
right. Thank you,
time.
Ali. Yeah, thank you for having me on and interviewing me. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. Yeah.
that was
And I appreciate you and Miguel.